also there's the mental health piece on, how are you feeling today? And, what has your day been like realistically? What symptoms, what frustrations have you faced? And then it ends with more that spiritual, like one thing you're grateful for, something you love about your body, it's very hard for those of us with chronic illness.
Welcome to the podcast, Christina.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited to be here.
So I'm curious what interested you in treating chronic illness?
Yeah, so I've had chronic illness since a young age, but it wasn't until it became debilitating in 2018. My past life was in humanitarian work, and I was in Mexico on contract with an NGO, and I ended up with like Giardia and various other things that just put me over the edge. And it's a very long story, but it brought me to the right doctors who ended up diagnosing me with Lyme disease and co-infections and like an array of other autoimmune diseases I didn't know I had at the time. And I was couch-bound. I was really sick. I was trying to look for a therapist who specialized in chronic illness, and I could not find one. And I ended up finding a therapist, at least who specialized in EMDR, because I knew about the mind, the mind-body connection and somatic experiencing and somatic work and how chronic illness can be tied to trauma. So I definitely wanted to go down that path. But because she was not chronic illness informed, I would say 25 to 50% of our sessions, and you only have 50 minutes with the therapist, were spent with me literally having to Google my diagnoses or my symptoms for this woman when I was already just so exhausted. She's like, well, what does that mean? Or I don't understand.
So you had to end up teaching the therapist.
I had to, yes, I had to do a lot of the labor within that scope. As someone who is chronically ill, had very little energy, spoons, as we call it in the chronic illness community. We only have so many a day. Even if you don't have chronic illness, you have so many spoons a day to spend on certain activities and things. And therapy is exhausting. So I wouldn't get what I wanted out of the session because I was providing subtitles to this person. And ultimately I found another therapist on Instagram. Someone had posted about him in London, and he was willing to meet with me via Zoom. And although he wasn't exactly trauma informed, there was something just so magical about talking to someone and not having to explain anything, who just did it, where I was like, okay.
Like breathe a big sigh of relief, right?
Yes, exactly. And, going back to that previous therapist, she went into EMDR without first resourcing, getting my nervous system into a place where we could actually delve into class. So I actually became more symptomatic in my work with her. I think ultimately it was helpful because of the work we did, but I'm just saying, like, in the immediate future, it was really harsh. So anyway, in those experiences, I realized, even though this was not what I wanted to get into, is that I needed to become the therapist I wish I had at that time, which did not exist. And, we were speaking a little bit prior to this about it. Like, I am not a typical therapist, and I can go into that as well, but I'm just saying, like, I really not, because
as many of our listeners are not typical.
Yeah. And with chronic illness, like, we're not typical. So like we need someone to meet us where we are. And that requires a lot of flexibility and open-mindedness and so much more.
So I know you mentioned chronic illness informed. So can you talk more about what that means?
Definitely. So generally it would mean any kind of provider who understands chronic illness, like various diagnoses, various symptoms, how do they present, how do they manifest, the different, like we have different lingo. I mentioned spoon theory before. How many spoons do you have in a day? Like, if you as a therapist do not know or a provider do not know what the spoon theory is, I'm going to take a guess that you are not chronic illness literate. So it's essentially, you're not having to have the client tell you what they're moving through on a technical level during the session, because that just takes a lot of time and energy for them to do that, to be able to do that. So I'm actually developing a course as we speak.
Oh, how nice.
Yeah, for specifically for therapists to become chronic illness literate, because it's really important. Like even if you're not specializing in chronic illness, you
You
likely
will have someone
will have
with
things
chronic
like
illness.
chronic pain, or any type of chronic medical condition. It's more common than we think or realize. Sadly, I wish that wasn't the case, but it is the truth. And to be able to just be there with the client is so therapeutic. I cannot begin to tell you. Like I said, my therapist before was not trauma informed, but the fact that he just knew and understood what I was going through was therapy in and of itself.
That's therapeutic
Yeah,
right there, isn't
exactly.
it?
Exactly.
Because I know you mentioned the spoon theory. Can you just go over that real quick, just for listeners that might not have heard of it?
Yeah. So the spoon theory, in essence, is this idea that we are in any given day, we have so many spoons that we can give away to certain activities. And of course, for me versus you, maybe a shower for you is one spoon. For me, it may take 10. Back in the day when I was couch bound due to my illness, I would have to have my mom was caregiving for me. So she would have to get me to the shower. And it felt like I literally ran a marathon after. It was horrible. And I have many clients who can't take showers because of this. They'll have to go somewhere to wash their hair or have someone help with that. So we only have so many spoons a day, and we have to be really mindful as to what we give them to. And like some people say, I went to the doctors and I took all of my spoons. Now I have to rest for the remainder of the day. That's an example.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. And
Thank
I can't emphasize the importance of having someone who understands. This has happened to me more with chronic pain as it's gotten worse for me as I get older, is that people don't understand sometimes. It's like I go to like exercise class or yoga class, and if they're not informed about this stuff and they do some of these activities that I watch, I stand and just stand there and just watch them and don't do it because I know it's going to bother my back. But
you.
it's like they don't mention any variations or it, it's just kind of it feels disheartening at times because there's not the awareness. Like I had the yoga training I went to, the teacher was, I don't know if it's because of me, but God, I told her about my back, but she would a lot of poses be like, oh, if you have back issues, then here's a variation. And we called them variation, not modification. So it's not like something's wrong with us. It's just, oh, we're doing a different variation.
It
So
really
I know what you're saying with that too. It's just you feel that deep after a while. It gets to you when people are more able bodied and have no clue and don't understand. Yeah.
Exactly. And I really love when, I go to yoga or do any kind of physical activity where they ask in advance, does anyone have anything that's bothering
Right.
them so that I'm aware? And then they'll mention that throughout. I've never heard the term variation. I much
That's
prefer.
more trauma informed.
Yes, exactly. I really appreciate it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's like giving options. So an option instead of I'm modifying from what I quote unquote should be able to do. It's more of here's an option. Here's one way you could do it this way or that way, and there's no right way.
And I
So
feel
people feel okay in their bodies, right? And
definitely. I feel like we as therapists too, when we're, suggesting any kind of activity, we could also be offering variations because
yes.
there is no one size fits all approach for anything. So,
Oh, right.
yeah,
Exactly. Yeah. So I wonder how do you define holistic?
I see holistic as okay, I see it as this. We are biopsychosocial spiritual beings. So that is my definition of being holistic, as looking at all aspects of that. Like we aren't just one thing. We are multidimensional. We are all of these things at once. And as far as like how I view my body and how I view others and how I treat them, I look at all these different parts, and I have them also look at these different parts. And yeah, it's just kind of one step at a time and seeing the interconnectedness.
So you take a holistic approach to treating chronic illness. So what are some challenges with what you do? Is it difficult at times?
Definitely. And, what I will say is, like, for someone to see me as a client, I have things that they must do, like,
Yeah.
as we're working together. And one of those things is they must see a holistic doctor. So they have to be under the care of someone like a root cause literate physician who really wants to understand on a biochemical level what's going on, right? What, that's things that are outside of my scope. I give to them, where I know that they're being taken care of on that level, and I could work with the doctor if need be. So there's that, like an integrative physician, right? Holistic, whatever you want to call them. So there's that. And then on the other side of it is I have them complete a neural retraining program of their choosing. And are you familiar with neural
No.
retraining?
Can you share what that is?
Sure, sure. So essentially, if someone comes to me with chronic illness, I've yet to meet anyone, clients or anyone sitting next to me getting an IV, or family or otherwise, who hasn't been stuck in fight or flight, a chronic stress response, probably since a really young age. And what happens when we've been in chronic fight or flight is that our brain thinks the tiger has been behind us this whole time. And I always tell clients, if you have a tiger behind you, is your body going to prioritize healing or surviving?
Mm.
Always going to prioritize surviving over healing. So we have to basically retrain the brain to understand and realize, perhaps there was a tiger at one point or various points at one's life, but there isn't one right now. They are actually safe right now. We can convince the brain the tiger's not in the room, it's not walking behind you. Let's put healing on the front burner now. It's been on the back burner. Let's put it on the front burner. And when I see folks do that, their healing kind of happens at warp speed. I've witnessed this time and time and time again. They've been doing all of the right things, and yet, they've been stuck in this space for a while. So anyway, how do we get them out of fight or flight? That's when we get neural retraining into the picture. So neural retraining is based off of neuroplasticity. And what we're doing is there's like a daily practice. Think of it like an exercise for your nervous system, where you are telling your nervous system via different actions that you are indeed safe. You are indeed safe. And it's based off a little bit of cognitive behavioral therapy, a lot of visualization, gratitude. We have meditation, mindfulness in there. There's so many programs at this point, but they all essentially are the same. Could I teach a client this myself? Sure. However, it would take a very long time. And if I'm only seeing someone, and we haven't gone into this, so I'm not a typical therapist where I see someone every week. We decide at the end of session when to see each other next. It's just going to take a long time. So the program I did personally, someone gave it to me for free, was called DNRS, Dynamic Neural Retraining System. And it was 14 hours of instruction. So I did it like over a week. I couldn't work at that time. So I had the freedom, if you will, and used all my spoons to just focus on that. And they just, in this specific program, they want you doing it for six months. That's what you agree to. It's a daily exercise for 6 months. And it was probably one of the biggest game changers in my health journey. And I see it consistently be one of the biggest game changers in everyone else's journey. Getting your nervous system in a place that's not just, because we can't expect a nervous system to be regulated constantly. The world would not allow for that. But to a point where, for the most part, it's regulated. And if it becomes dysregulated, it's a bit more flexible. It can bounce back to a regulated state. You're not stuck in that dysregulated, there's a tiger chasing me right now state at all times. So we want you in rest and repair, rest and digest as often as possible. And before, I'm sure people are listening going like, well, I don't see myself fighting or or physically fleeing a situation. There's two other F's. There's a fawning response and there's a freezing response. And those are actually the two I see most often folks are oscillating between. And that freeze response is when you physically cannot flee a situation, you may freeze, you may disassociate, you may feel indecisive, you may be stuck staring at a wall. It's so many different things. And that fawning response is people pleasing, codependency, maybe being like a hyper perfectionist. What else? Like overachieving, like all of these things, which you wouldn't consider like a fight or flight state, are it's something that we developed in order to survive when we were younger, whatever it was we moved through. And we're realizing now, well, that doesn't really help me in my current state of being. And that's what we work on in therapy. But it's a matter of feeling safe enough to explore why that happened and why did that happen in the first place? And yeah, yeah, healing
Do
the
you get
nervous.
pushback for asking people to do those things? And
Oh, sure, 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 sure.
yeah.
Definitely. I have some clients who take, a year plus to even start doing it, and they go,
Ah, okay.
wow, but the resistance in and of itself is something we get to work on in therapy,
True.
right? Like what is the resistance? What's really at the core of that? And it's not to say we can't do other work, in therapy, as we're constantly co-regulating with our client. The moment we see them or we're on screen with them, co-regulation is happening. And I try to offer as safe and courageous of a space as possible for them to be where they are right now, however that presents. But yeah, there's going to be constant encouragement on my end to do the neural retraining work as well. But meanwhile, we still are with little things at a time. Yeah.
Because I can imagine they'd have to be pretty motivated too to take these steps, you know.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And everyone's different, and
Mm.
like everyone presents completely different. And I've had folks, and this is not hyperbole, who start the neural retraining program, and I can't guarantee this, of course, but like they're within months are feeling better and don't really need to see me as much. And
Amazing.
yeah, and then I have on the other side of that, like I said, it's been over a year and they haven't touched it, and they don't know why. And it's like, okay, well, let's explore what that
Oh, okay.
is.
Hmm.
Also, the other thing I get pushback on is seeing a root cause physician.
Oh,
Um,
that's what I wondered. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, because I hear, well, I got this autoimmune diagnosis and that's it. And I said, okay, however, I believe that there's something triggering it. So let's try to, and I've yet to not see that happen in my practice. Let's find out what is triggering that with this doctor. Anyway, when it works, it's
Yeah.
beautiful.
Yeah. No, I bet because everything kind of lines up. You know, I see a lot of young adults and encourage them to at least get a physical from a regular doctor, you know, because most of them are like, I'm healthy, I'm good.
Yep.
And I'm like,
Yeah,
no, you need to get a physical.
because it's like,
Yeah,
because like for example, like let's just say someone has a thyroid challenge, that mental health wise that can present in so many different ways.
absolutely. Yeah,
I don't think a lot of therapists maybe even realize this. And
for
if
sure.
you get on the right medication, whether it's natural or pharmaceutical, oh my gosh, it could make such a difference in a person's mental health. That's more biochemical. That's outside.
Exactly.
That's outside of our scope. So I'd rather a doctor
Yeah.
address that. Yeah.
No, I agree because I feel like we have to look at that. I feel like in the beginning, it's more an investigator sometimes trying to figure out what is really going on here. Where do we need to work on? What goals do we need to work on? And 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 I tell clients when I start with them too. It's like changing, right? We can change these goals too as we notice. Oh, actually, it's not this. It's this, right? As we go deeper and
Well, yeah, 1,000 every layer move, we're like, okay.
yeah, I
The
know.
more, the more you're right, the more I learn, the less I know. That so often happens
Oh, for
in
sure.
therapy, and it's beautiful. I mean, I'm honored to, and I'm sure you are too, to get to
Oh,
do
for sure.
along sides.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But the neural retraining, I have not heard of this, so I'm really excited to learn more about this. And but it sounds like you really trust it if you want your clients to take this program. And
I do. I trust. I mean, and like I said, there's so many different ones now, and I just what I ask is you find the one that
okay,
resonates most with you. And I have a resources section on my website that we were talking about earlier.
yes,
And there's a neural retraining section there. So you can
okay.
see it's not even all the programs, but
Yeah, I looked at that today. So, can you talk about your resource page? Because I told you I got lost on that. I was like, "Ooh, look at this! Oh my gosh, there's more!" And I kept scrolling and scrolling, and she's got so many holistic resources. So this will be in the show notes for you listeners. But I highly recommend you check it out.
thank you. Thank you. Yeah, I have a second master's in library sciences. So I'm like the biggest resource and
I
research.
could tell. I was like, "Wow, she's got it going on with the resource."
Thank you. Thank you. And the reason being is again, like if someone can't access me or
Yes.
doesn't want to come to the group, they have access to this at all times. Yeah, it's taken me years and years to gather all of these resources and sort of, and sort of organize them. And it is holistic again, in the sense that, there's a list of various doctors and organizations. There's even I have an area for therapy, chronic illness literate therapists, or therapists for those who are low income, areas on nutrition. What else? Areas for like retreats, an area for meditation and mindfulness. And we
Yeah.
also created
Hmm.
a playlist of binaural beats, healing hurts music.
Yeah, I saw that too. I was excited. I was like, "Ooh, I want to try this later." Yes.
Please do it. Please do it. And clients will send me songs. They're like, I found this one. I'm like, yes. So a lot of those resources you
Mm.
see aren't just my own. Like it's a community
Yeah,
effort.
for sure.
I,
Okay.
so yeah, if you see my resource list and you're like, whoa, she's missing this, just send it to me. Or if you think of a song.
Yeah. No, I think that's great for access for people that maybe don't have that availability for financially to afford therapy, and at least they have some options to look at. Mm.
Yeah, yeah. There's even like a financial resource section as
Oh,
well if you have certain chronic illnesses that,
see,
you
you've thought of everything here, Christine.
yeah, it's being a social worker and be a community
Gotcha.
social
Hmm.
worker for so long too. It's yeah. Anyway,
No, I think that's so important. Well, you were so kind to send me your journal. So it's called Begin Within, a Daily Healing Journal. And I started it today, and I was just wondering, how do you use this with clients? Because it was really cool to actually sit and give myself that time to really reflect on. It's like a holistic kind of journal, isn't it, for
it
yourself?
is. It is. Yeah. So it's that mind, body, spirit journal. I created it when I was couch bound and needed a way to track my health and my symptoms. And I was looking, and I swear I had no intention. It's kind of like I had no intention to become the therapist I am today. I had no intention to create this journal. I didn't have the spoons to do it, but I couldn't find a mind body journal out there that tracked symptoms and asked the prompts and questions I ask in this. So I started writing them out for myself. And what I noticed each day as I was doing it is that, I saw a positive trajectory in my healing journey.
Oh,
And I
okay.
was able to, because of my brain fog being as horrific as it was, meaning like it was really difficult for me to recall information when I go to the doctors. I had documentation of,
Oh,
what
that's
I was
true.
thinking.
Hmm.
Yeah, and I had to make the prompts so simple because again, the brain fog, the lack of energy, the fatigue was really, really intense. And anyway, I thought this would probably be really helpful for so many people on various levels. You go to a nutritionist, they're like, can you track what you're eating and what your blood pressure is like for the next few months? They don't give you anything to do it. But what I liked, I really, you have the typical asking, what you ate and what your blood pressure is, where you are on your cycle, how many bowel movements do you have? But also there's the mental health piece on, how are you feeling today? And, what has your day been like realistically? What symptoms, what frustrations have you faced? And then it ends with more that spiritual, like one thing you're grateful for, something you love about your body, it's very hard for those of us with chronic illness.
I appreciated that. Yeah. Hmm.
It's hard to recreate that, or foster, I should say, foster that relationship with your body when you feel like your body hates you and is attacking you and is making you suffer. So that's always a hard one for me. And what's something you learned today also because of the brain fog, but important to practice and really kind of push the brain to remember. And then one goal you have for tomorrow, which I don't know, it was always so helpful for me because
Yeah, no, because I had started a similar journal at night. I don't do it every night. You know what? I tell clients to journal, at least make some kind of habit. You don't have to do it every day because I don't do it every day.
oh
There's
yeah,
just times I don't, and that's okay. But I do go back to it. And I like how you put in here about self care too, because I don't know about you, but sometimes I don't even give myself credit. I was like, oh, wait a second. I did go for a walk this morning. And sometimes I forget. It's like I do something in the morning, it's like out of my head. But it's
well,
nice to give yourself that credit.
1,000%. I think people forget too. Self care doesn't need to look like bubble baths. It could literally be
No,
yourself to
exactly.
the doctor. That is
Yes.
that
Oh,
is
for
self care.
sure.
That is self care. And
Absolutely.
I don't have it pre-planned. Why don't you have dates written in? And I said no because that doesn't work for most of us. It's like I don't want people to feel pressured to have to fill this
Exactly.
out. It's when you feel like you're ready to fill it out. Today's the day I want to, I want to
I
journal.
want to look at this and
Yeah, and
yeah.
in journaling it's an amazing mind body tool. They've done
Yes.
research and clinical studies on it where they did one on patients with wounds, right? Open wounds.
Mm.
The ones who journaled, their wounds actually healed faster than the ones
Oh,
who
I
were
believe it.
journaling.
Hmm.
So when you say mind body, I mean this is
It's
what we're
truth.
talking about. It's truth. Yeah.
Yeah, but what I like too is, and the one that I've used as well, is just really short prompts. So you don't feel like you have to write a book like, what are you grateful for? You have a little box for it. So it's not like you could just like to put 2 words if you want, you know? Because I think it does take the pressure off, like, oh, I have to come up with something for journaling. And
Exactly, exactly. It's kind of like the difference of like free form meditation, if you will. You just shut your eyes and go into meditation versus like listening to someone giving you the prompts of breathing and what to think about and what to focus
absolutely.
on. It's kind of similar to that. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that could be helpful for chronic pain or illness because I do have variations. The only problem I have sometimes it's like, okay, I'm doing great, but there are fluctuations, right? So sometimes giving one number can be tough, like for the day, as far
Oh
as
yeah.
pain goes, you know.
Well, it's not linear.
Exactly. It's
It's
not
not
like,
one.
I mean, there are bad days, but yeah, usually it's like it can just change so much, and
It can definitely change throughout the day, and yeah, one week to the next. Yeah.
you
Yeah.
never know what you're
You
gonna get.
don't ever know. It's always a
Right.
surprise. It keeps you on your toes. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I hear that, but I think I could see how that could be really helpful. Do you use that with therapy sessions to talk about the journal at all, or
Yeah, I mean, I literally have clients open to different journals,
Oh, okay.
like
Mhm.
pages, and they're like, because I'll say like, well, how's it been since the last time I saw you? And they're like, well, let me grab it out and tell
Nice.
you. And
Yeah.
then I have others who've never touched it. So let's
That's okay.
that's exactly that's what I'm saying. There's variations to everything, and there isn't a
Mm,
one size fits all approach. So we have to find what works for us and what resonates.
yeah, but it makes a lot of sense. I'm just like going back to the neural retraining because, you know, I've heard this before. It's like one you say some of the same stuff over and over to clients. I teach a lot of psycho ed, and I know a lot of other therapists do. So having somewhere where they can learn a lot of this information kind of takes that off of the therapy time when you can be looking at other issues and treatment modalities. That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, it's been incredible. So yeah, if like I'm not for everyone with these requirements, and
Oh,
that
of course. But
that's
that's okay. Yeah.
that's
So it's
okay.
finding the right clients for you, and
Exactly.
especially listeners that are starting private practice, you know, it's for you to really think about how would you like yours to be, right, for a holistic practice. And these are just ideas. And of course, there's no requirements on anything. So it's really just deciding what aligns with you and your values.
Exactly. And I'm the first to remove my ego from the situation and go, let's find you the right therapist,
Exactly. Yeah.
'Cause
And then I think,
it's important that it goes both ways. It goes both ways that both of you feel safe
right. Mm.
with each other. Yeah.
So, how do you collaborate with other healthcare professionals? Is that part of what you do holistically as well?
Definitely. So a lot of being in Southern California, a lot of my clients are also in Southern California and see a lot of doctors I see because they accept insurance, which is, hard to find when it comes to like true integrative, holistic healing and health. But anyway, like as needed, yeah, I will speak with their providers and collaborate. Yeah.
I think that's so powerful.
Definitely. Even my doctors now are, at least they're not requiring it, but they're really, really recommending and encouraging neural retraining to their
Really? Wow.
yeah.
Okay.
It's definitely worth checking out, looking into.
Yeah, I would agree for sure. So, what are some of the modalities that you like to do with clients?
I am an EMDR therapist, and I do constructed awareness, which is another sort of mind body modality. Actually, Tyler Orr, he developed constructed awareness. He's in Tennessee, yeah. And he noticed that it wasn't all encompassing basically. He wanted to utilize all orientation types. So, we're either oriented mentally, somatically or sensationally and environmentally. And so in being a trainer in EMDR, he noticed this and he created his own program. And that has been my favorite to use with clients actually, because it is a much more gentle approach than EMDR. Like EMDR has its time and place, but I'm just fighting that I'm utilizing
Oh,
this
really? So how
in
does it work with
more.
clients? And
So essentially, we're able to move through their past traumas by them focusing on different, like orienting themselves in different ways. Sorry, that was my dog.
it's okay.
He just should open the door as usual. Um, so anyway, if I have them focus on an image from the past, I will let them sit in that discomfort, but then have them focus to something outside of themselves, something they could see, right? So it's allowing their nervous system to be with something uncomfortable, but not for too long to completely dysregulate them. Yeah, I've really appreciated that, and to be with their feelings and what that actually feels like in their bodies too on a sensational level. So if they're like, oh, I'm feeling anxious, where is that in your body? What shape does it hold? It's pretty great. And before we venture that direction, we were already doing a lot of neural retraining, nervous system regulation work together. And I do a lot of EFT tapping as well. There's that. And, I do a little bit of like CBT as we see fit. I mean, really it's meeting them wherever they are at that moment in time and seeing where their nervous system is today. Is today a day we can go within, or is today a day we want to be a little bit more gentle and talk things out? I mean, every session looks completely different.
Exactly. We never know where it's going to go. But I think that's what the reason a lot of us like this work too.
Yeah. It's never boring. And then sometimes it's a mindfulness. I do a lot of meditations, and so yeah, it just depends on what they need.
So how do you help clients with chronic illness with the emotional part of all this too, when they're really in a lot of pain or low energy and they're just not functional? How do you help them manage what
Ugh.
happens emotionally? Because I know that can be really difficult. And
Well, so I'm a big fan of the mind body connection related to pain, how pain actually starts in the brain. So what's interesting is when we bring curiosity to anything, it is bound to change. So someone comes to me with a lot of pain. First, we're going to do some mindfulness work. We're going to do some breathing techniques, and then we're going to be with the pain. We're not going to avoid the pain. We're going to be with the pain in the most gentle way possible. And we're going to sit with it and understand the story, the energy. Where is this coming from? That's that constructed awareness piece I was discussing. I mean, even, I don't know if you know about his work, Howard Schubiner, but uh,
no. Mm.
this is a fantastic workbook. Yeah, it's called Unlearn Your Pain. I'm a huge fan of Dr. Sarno. He has a book called Healing Your Back Pain and the Mind Body Prescription. Fantastic reads if you have chronic pain or work with folks with chronic pain. And then he's kind of his protege. I'm sorry, it's now past RIP, but yeah, he created this workbook and it has been amazing for myself and for my clients.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
imagine so. Mm.
even in my work, I also, do a little bit of psychedelic work as well. It's something separate, but I used to be in chronic pain. I have had various surgeries, and my pain has gone from a 9, 10 to a 0, 1 at this point
Wow,
through
amazing.
my own
Mm.
trauma informed work. And this has been many, many, many years, not just like one thing,
It's
but
not one pill you take, it's all
I
better. No.
know, right? Wouldn't that be amazing? We learn to sit with and understand the pain
Yeah, it
and
makes
understand the pain.
makes a lot of
So
sense too. I guess have you found that treating chronic illness or chronic pain is usually not just one thing, but is it multi-layered? And
it is
that's
so
what I
multi.
thought too.
It's like even looking at the environment, it's like what
Sure. Mm.
right food, or what is your environment? Do you have mold in your home? What are you cleaning your windows with? I know that seems like a lot, but
No, but
it's
it makes sense.
you
And
need to lower the histamine bucket, the toxic load on the body, and all of these things play a part. I'm even asking, what makeup are you using? What clothes are you wearing? Because our clothes even carry different frequency levels and can affect us. What music are you listening to? What are you watching? Does your I'm always asking, does this feel good for your nervous system, or does it upregulate you or dysregulate you? And I mean, this is a journey for the clients to really go on and figure out. I'm just here to light the path and ask the questions so that they can make informed decisions, looking at their relationships, looking at their jobs. I mean, everything, their spirituality and so forth. It's so multifaceted and multi-layered, definitely. And everyone, yeah, there's no specific right way to do it. It's doing it the way that feels best to their nervous system, what resonates with them, not mine, theirs. And what resonates with them can look completely different than mine. So
Exactly. So what's the best way for listeners to find you and learn more about you?
sure. So you can find me at Begin Within Today or beginwithintoday.com. Like I said, I am creating a course, so hopefully soon that'll be available to any listeners who would like to learn more about being chronic illness literate or take the course. I also have a gluten-free holistic publication called Buen Quamino, BUENQAMINO, buenquamino.com, that you can also check out. So that's more of like the, Begin Within Today specific to therapy. And the other one is all things,
Nice.
mind-boggling things. Yeah.
Well, thanks so much for coming on the podcast today, Christina.
Thank you so much for having me. Thank you.
This was great. And thank you, listeners, for tuning in today. And I have a question for you. Are you always last on your to-do list? You are not alone. Many counselors find it difficult to find the time for self-care practices. My book, Self-Care for the Counselor, was written for you. In this easy-to-read book, you'll find it jam-packed with holistic strategies to help create those consistent practices and help you find balance and the renewed energy you need. Go ahead and grab your copy today at hcpodcast.org/self-care. That's hcpodcast.org/self-care. Once again, this is Chris McDonald sending each one of you much light and love. Till next time, take care. Thanks for listening. The information in this podcast is for general educational purposes only, and it is given with the understanding that neither the host, the publisher, or the guests are giving legal, financial, counseling, or any other kind of professional advice. If you need a professional, please find the right one for you. The Holistic Counseling Podcast is proudly part of the Sightcraft Network.